Now, as a quick follow-up to what I've just been discussing, I should point out that this other band leader also later on, a few months later, faced a court appearance. He had indeed been taking money for gigs and not even showing up for some of the gigs. He'd been trying to get other musicians to go and do it for him and not pay up. I should also point out that, interestingly, the night before the claim was to go before the sheriff court, an envelope arrived with the payment in full. So my small claim was, he didn't want it to go to the small claims. I think he realised that, you know, it was not fair to mess me about like that. I think that's one of the reasons. As I say, it then went to the court that he actually owed a lot of people a lot of money, as I say, for taking gigs and not turning up. And the case was sort of put back for, as they called it, background reports. And I must confess that, knowing perfectly well who his lawyer was, because his lawyer was actually quite a good friend of mine. He was the one that helped me on the speeding charge. I used to teach all his kids when they were younger, so I knew exactly who his lawyer was, and I did in fact send an email to his solicitor and outline my knowledge of him from when he was a young lad of 11. In fact, I even knew, because I have taught the fellow that taught him even before then. It's a very, very small world. So anyway, I actually put in a letter to his solicitor to explain some of the mitigating circumstances, and the fact that this fellow did feel that he hadn't got the best of lives, if you like. You know, he felt that he was owed by people for something better than what his life was at that time. You know, so as I say, I wasn't trying to bury him. I was just trying to expose the truth and try and get him to realise that, you know, these problems, he can stick his head in the sand, but they're not going to go away. People will pursue him. I was particularly annoyed, I would say, with the fact that other musicians had allowed him to carry on for so long. He would regularly, when they did a gig with him, he would say at the end of the night, the bride and groom weren't completely happy, they haven't paid us in full, so I can't pay you in full, or I can only give you half, or, you know, they're refusing to pay up. And he would come up with all sorts of excuses. They've given me a cheque, so I'll have to pay it in and get the money to you. And the thing about gigging musicians is that it's enjoyable going out and do a gig. It's something you want to do. It's a potential source of like a second income. So a lot of people were quite happy to just go along, and he just sort of abused them. You know, it was corruption within the musical, the Scotch country dance band, Ceilidh band scene, and it needed to be eradicated, because this guy was causing a lot of trouble. As I say, some people were, 99% of people were very supportive. They said, you know, he definitely did need to be, you know, exposed, and somebody stand up and say, look, you know, you're not going to carry on and doing this. I since heard that he's moved out to the area, which is very advisable. But as I said, I did have a certain sympathy for him, that the fact that he had certain issues. As I say, when his hero was known to be, you know, not just almost an alcoholic, but also taking a lot of drugs, that's when he decided to follow suit. Quite impressionable in that respect. As I say, the billboards in Manitowoc, they needed to be done. Somebody needs to stand up to the corruption there, because we hear so often that the local people that realise what's going on, they have nobody to, you know. What do you do in Manitowoc if you think that the police are corrupt? Who do you turn to? It's not like you can call out the A team and get them to come in and sort things out. You know, it's just it's quite a terrible situation if there's nobody who's going to stand up to the corruption that's going on there. No, as I say, I am fully whoever it was. I suspect that whoever it was wasn't just an individual. I suspect a group. I also suspect that they had some somebody, you know, local. Maybe they're all local, but if not, that there was somebody local that would have helped and advised. And I think that's really good. That, you know, hopefully people in Manitowoc are now beginning to stand up, and hopefully some people will continue to keep coming forward. I'm afraid I don't buy the argument that it's somehow you know, a problem for Kathleen Zellner. Some people have suggested that in fact it could well have been some of her investigators that have instigated the billboards. As I say, I'm just one of these people that you know, I was not going to just sit back and take it, and I certainly admire when others take the same opinion. Anyway, sorry to keep rabbiting on for so long. As I say, I'll speak to you soon, and hopefully, as I say, there'll be other things in the future. I know, for example, that there's a rally planned in Manitowoc in June. Unfortunately, it's a Friday, Saturday when I'm already engaged to do gigs here in Scotland, so I'm afraid I'll not be walking up the steps to the Sheriff's Department and asking for a quick interview, a chat with Robert Herman, because that offer was on the table the first time I spoke to him, so maybe I'll take it up at some point. Anyway, bye for now.